Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to another session with me, Varun, on Prevatic. And in this session, we will be looking at how to handle data pre-processing, what is data pre-processing, and we would be looking at the theoretical part of data pre-processing, which is a very, very important topic in data science for R. So now, without wasting any time, let us just go ahead and understand. So the agenda would be to understand what are the different parts of pre-processing. For example, we have handling null values, we have standardization, we have handling categorical values, we have one-hot encoding. So we have things like these. So we'll just talk about all of them, and in this through this discussion, we would also look at some question and answers, and we would thereby understand what is and how do we handle data processing. So let us begin. So data processing, to begin with, is a process wherein you are kind of adjusting, or you're preparing, or you are revamping the data that you have, which is raw data, to make it as suitable or as convenient as possible for a machine learning model to understand and learn. Okay, now it is a, I mean, even before you go and apply any machine learning model, it could be even the most basic machine learning model or even the most advanced machine learning model, we generally have to work, or we most of the times are bound to work on something called as data pre-processing, in which we create a machine learning project. And okay, even if it is not a machine learning project, we create a project, and once it is created, we clean the data, we remove the unnecessary columns, we add the necessary columns, we remove not available values, or probably we replace the not available values. And you might have to rename certain columns. All right, you might have to change certain binary uh, numbers, like, or binary things like male female, binary values like male female into 0 1. So all these kind of things have to be covered under data pre-processing. All right. So now let us just kind of understand what are the steps that we generally do when we are working on data pre-processing in machine learning. So after you're done with importing the libraries, now we're not talking of the language. Now this could be R, or this could be for Python. Whatever we're talking right now is bound not to change. So we import libraries, okay, and once they are done, we instantiate them, then we get our data set, and then we start cleaning the data set. Firstly, if there are any unnecessary columns to be removed, you remove it. It's not mentioned here, but that is something that you should be knowing. It's like when you're going out in a vehicle, taking the car key is not a step. So similarly, here also, when you are working on a data set, then removing unnecessary columns is not a very important step, but yet it is pretty vital. Okay, so yeah, you remove the unnecessary columns, you're renaming the unnecessary columns, probably one or two things which are very important. You find them, you identify them, you identify your dependent and independent variables. So after all these are done, and when you started working, the next thing you do is within data pre-processing, you handle the missing values in your data set. Then you see if there's any encoding required to your data set, after which you would have to split your data set given into testing and training model. Now, why do we have to do this? If you could just pause the video for a second and think about why is it very important for us to handle the training set or test data set, is because generally when you are working on a machine learning model, you would want your machine, or you would want your system to learn from one, and you would want it to predict, or you would want it to be tested or compared against another. So in this case, most of the times, this is how it goes, at least for 90% of the times, you create two models, which is testing and a training model, wherein test has the lower side of data because it is just for comparison, and train has a higher quantity, or it has Now let us say if you have a ratio, if you have a scale of 100, then I would not go beyond 70 or 65. I would not go below 70 or 65 for my training, and I would keep the rest into testing. I mean, this is the maximum limit I would push it to. I would never go for a 50-50. All right. So yeah, that is how training and testing data become pretty important. So you split your data set into training and testing set, after which you would apply feature scaling. Feature scaling is also a very important step, and we'll see what each of these is as we keep going forward. Now, when we talk about what are the different steps involved, the first one is handling null values. Now, null values, I mean, there's not a necessity that they have to be written as null or not available. So it could be, anything. Even if it is vacant, your system would be able to understand. Okay, now even if you talk about how we work in Python, the only thing that we would be doing is we would be adding is dot null, sorry, a dot is null method, which would tell us how many null values we have. All right. And you could probably, now this is to find out how many NA values. Now, if you want to remove any NA values in Python, you would be doing drop.NA. But what do we do in R is something that we would see. And if you're really inquisitive to know right away, I would suggest that you pause the video and you check what it is. All right. Now, see, when you have, now why is it important for us to handle the not available values? Let's first discuss that. Now, when you're working on machine learning, or when you're working on it, okay, now let's forget, now that we know we are in machine learning, now that when you're working on a data set, right? When you're handling, okay, let us say that you have 20,000 rows. Now, if 20,000 rows have around 20 missing values, that's okay. You can still think of removing them. But then what would you do if you have only 20 rows, all right, and you have eight missing values? You can't remove eight columns, because now you can't remove eight rows, right? Because now I think you would only be having 12, and there's hardly a data set, and that would create a lot of imbalance. Now you can assume this to be that you're working for a car or an automobile company. An automobile company would not have 5,000 vehicles. It would have probably 50 or 60 vehicles under its belt. That to a maximum. I mean, 50, 60 being the maximum number. So in cases like these, you would have to treat the NA values appropriately. And for this, we have something called as imputation. And what is imputation is something that we would be looking in the upcoming video. Then we also have the process of standardization. Okay, in standardization, we kind of transform our values such that the mean of the value is 0 and the standard deviation is 1. Okay. Now, whenever you do this, most of the times the library that you would be using is standard scalar. And what is it in Python? Sorry, this is standard scalar is in Python, and what is it in R is something we would be looking at. I'm giving you libraries of Python as well, just in verbal, so that you can kind of memorize them and understand them and know them, and probably use them in your interview if you are asked. Then we have also something called as handling categorical variables. When you talk about categorical variables, here you have two kinds, that is ordinal, and the other one is nominal. All right. And when you talk about ordinal means they can be ordered basically. Now, how do you say that they can be ordered? Let us say you have size of t-shirts. Okay, so here you have a standard size which goes from small to medium to large to extra large to double XL, right? So here they can be ordered. And when you talk about nominal categorical variables, we can just say that you have color of a t-shirt, which cannot be ordered. So the important thing here is that we need to pre-process both of these differently. All right. Ordinal and nominal have two different methods of treatment. All right. And what is that is something that we would be looking at as we keep going ahead. All right. Then you have some other process like multicollinearity check. Now, before we even talk about, what is it, and I mean, the impact of it, we should first understand what it is. It is a feature, multicollinearity. It's basically a feature wherein which occurs firstly if you're, if there are two columns, or if there are, some columns which are very strongly dependent on each other. All right. So in this case, you would have a decision boundary change, which would create a huge impact on our machine learning model. So that is why multicollinearity is also to be removed. And in order to do a multicollinearity check, you can just do a pair plot and you can see how the relationship is varying. All right. So that is something to do with multicollinearity. And yeah, so these are some very important. And then you have feature scaling. Okay, so feature scaling is also something that we would see. And when you do feature scaling, you would see that most of your values within your data set would be scaled down from a range of 0 to 1. Now, this is for most of the cases. Now, if you have outliers, in that case, your data would probably go a bit more than, one, maximum, like, it would go up to 2, 2.5, and not more than that. But then if it is a very huge outlier, then yeah, you would have probably a bit of a higher number. But then you would see that 80 to 90% of your data is now scaled in the values of, you can say, 0 to 1 or minus 1 to 1. Now you would not see values, I mean, most of the times there would be no values within minus. It doesn't happen. So yeah, that would be the range that you would be looking at. So now what we would do is, we would go through the coding part and we would look at each of them individually. And if you have any queries, I'm pretty sure you all know what to do. If it is Skype, prava.tech is how you're supposed to contact us. If it is through mail, then hello@pravatech.com would be the thing. And if you're looking forward to give us a call, then you would have to dial on 8147 111 254. Thanks a lot for being there. This is me, Varun, your trainer, signing off. Hopeful to see you in the next video. Till then, keep practicing and do not stop no matter what. Have a great day. Thank you.